Okay, so these video directions are going to be for part, a basic review part. In this case, we are going to be looking into our own homepage, going into our beginning SOLIDWORKS folder. The part I want to work on today is going to be the Whole Wizard sample quiz review. Now, in this case here, you could also work from the Schoology page if you wanted to from this, but I prefer to download this file so that I can see this at full screen. So I'm going to go ahead and open this file up and bring it on over to this screen, minimizing, or actually in this case, maximizing the size of the drawing. Now this is the part I want to create today. So I want to kind of create a plan of action on how to work on this part, just like you would do in a quiz of your own taking here. Okay, so in this case, my plan is looking at this, is I'm essentially going to draw this U shape and then extrude it back. So I'm really going to focus on the front view to start off this part. Okay, so I'm going to start this on the front plane and extrude it back. And then I'll come back in. And depending on which way you want to do this, I'll go ahead and probably add in the chamfers on the side, the fillets on these corners, and then I'm going to come in and add in the screw holes in the bottom, and then the counterbore to the side, and the screw holes here to the side. Okay. Now in this case, I want to start with the correct units. So in this case, we see down here in the corner, this is a metric part. Now remember, not all parts will be metric. So if you don't see that, you're assuming then it's inches. Now going into my SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to go ahead and start with a file new. And I'm going to start this as a metric part and say OK. Now again, I said I want to start this from the front plane. So I'm going to go here from the front. Again, the reason I'm going from the front plane is that I want to refer back to this view here, which is my front view. So turning on my front plane and turning on my sketch tools, I'm simply going to turn on my line tool and create a U shape. Starting at the origin, I'll move out to my right, move straight up, move straight in, down, over, up, over, and down. Now, at this point, I'm done with my line tool, so I'll hit escape and hit my F key to center the part up. Now I see that it's in blue, so that means I need to look at my drawing to figure out the dimensions I need. So it looks like I need to make this thing 100 wide, a 60 gap, and each one of these sides is 20. So going back over, I'm going to turn this on from left to right at 100. Make this distance right here 20, and the distance between these two sides here will be 60. Now, that takes care of the width part. Now I need to think about the height. Okay, so going back to this, I see the thickness down here is 20, and the overall height of this is 100. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the side. I get the side as 100. And I'm going to get this distance down here as 20. Now, as you can see, most of it's black, but this side right here, I see a blue line. And the reason that's happening, and hopefully you would see that, is that this line over here is not the same length as this one over here. Well, I'm going to use my relationship tool, or my control key, to click on the left-hand side and click on this right-hand side and make these two lines equal. I will hit my check mark, and I now see that these are fully defined because they're all black, but I also see it says fully defined here in the corner. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my feature toolbar, and we're going to do an extrusion. Now for this one, that means I'm going to extrude in this direction. Okay, I basically have drawn back here, I'm extruding this way, and I'm going to extrude a total distance of 100. That is the depth I see right here. So going back to SOLIDWORKS, where it says 10 millimeters, I'm going to change this to 100 and hit enter. Hit my check mark, hit my F key to center it up. Now as you can see, the part is blue. And that should be a dead giveaway that there is no material attached to this part. So going back over here to my PDF file, I'm looking to see what the material is, and according to the PDF file, it is an AISI 1020 steel. Back at SOLIDWORKS, material not specified in the design tree, I right click and do an edit material. Now under my steels, I'm looking for an AISI 1020. Don't worry about the cold roll. Just go with a straight up AISI 1020. Hit apply and close. Now what I'm going to do next, going back to my part here, is I'm going to go ahead and add in these chamfers. I did not draw those in. Okay, that is a bad habit to do. If you try to draw them in, a lot of times these are where the mistakes occur. So what I'd rather do is keep this square and then use my feature chamfer tool to create these 10 by 45 chamfers. So going back into SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to go to my features toolbar, and under the word fillet, drop that arrow down and go to chamfer. Now the default is 10 by 45, which is exactly what I need. So to make this work, I'm going to make sure I have my full preview on. I'm going to click on this line right here, hold my middle mouse button down and rotate, and click on this line right here. And what I'm seeing is the preview of the two chamfers that are about to fill in. To make this work, I just go to the green check mark and left click. Spacebar, isometric view. So there are my two chamfers. This is the most correct way and the best way of putting chamfers onto a part. So now looking back here, I see that I have these two pieces done. So now what I want to do is I want to put in these two countersink screw holes. Okay, and the reason I know they're countersink, I see the sides are angled in, indicating a screw would fit in there. So now I'm going to have to use my hole wizard to put these in. So going back into SOLIDWORKS, and under my feature design tree, or my feature toolbar, excuse me, I'm going to go to my hole wizard. I left click and turn it on, and now I have my choices and my property management bar to set all this up. Now the three we primarily work with again are Counterbore, Countersink, and tapped hole. Okay, I would like to go to a countersink. That is this one right here. Now the big thing with doing this is the first thing I need to make sure is up to date is the standard. If you recall, we're drawing this part in metric. Right now, mine's saying inch, which is not correct. I cannot cross my units. So I need to drop this down to an ANSI metric. It will be a flathead screw. I'm going to leave that alone. But now I need to go back and look at this note over here. And as you can see, the note here tells me I have two of these holes with a diameter 9 that is going through all, with a diameter of 17.3 for the countersink at 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these three numbers, the 9, the 17.3, and the 90, and I'm going to plug them into my hole wizard using the custom properties. So going back into SOLIDWORKS, I will go to Show Custom Sizing, click it on. I will now change this. The first box will be a 9, goes right in order. The second box will be a 17.3. The third box should be 90. Now the big things are to make sure that you have nothing else checked in down in the options area. Okay, the end condition should be through all, and the way I know that is because it says right here, through all. So now, knowing that's done, I need to place my circles or my holes. So I go to the Positions tab here. I'm going to click on this surface. This says select the face for the hole. Well, I'm going to select that face right there, do a space bar and a normal 2. And I'm going to drop 2 of these approximately in the middle, left click on number 1, left click number 2. Now you'll notice the tool is still active. So to deactivate it, hit escape. Now, don't hit your green check mark. These two things are not defined. I can see that this is blue and so is this. And it also says down here under defined. That means I need to actually put these in position using my dimension tools. So I'm going to go here and look. I see from the back edge to the center here will be 20. The center to center distance will be 60. It'll be 50 from this outside edge right here. Okay, so if I add those three numbers in there, I should be able to get this to fully define. So turning on my smart dimension, from this point here to the back edge will be 20. From the center of this upper hole to the center of the lower hole will be 60. And from this center to the far right, pulling down, will make this 50. Now this one here, actually in this case, they're not defined yet for a specific reason. Okay, we need to add in a relationship between these two circles of vertical. So I did that by holding my control key. By doing that, it now says fully defined, and I notice that the asterisks have both turned black. As soon as I see this is fully defined in black, I hit my check mark, spacebar isometric, and I have my two holes where they're supposed to be. So looking back over this view right here, so I've completed these right here. I'm going to go ahead and enter this one right here. This is a counterbore. A counterbore has a flat bottom to it when it's sunk in. So I'm going to go back and turn on my counterbore tool, hole wizard, and add this on this right-hand side. Now this only is on this side. How do I know that? Because I can look up here on this view and I see it only on this side. Now looking at this again, it looks like the view I need to work with here is going to be the right side view. This is the information I need to complete this part. So I'm going to go back into my SOLIDWORKS, go back to features, and turn on my hole wizard again. Now we just did countersink. This time though, I'm going to use Counterbore. I'm going to left click on that and it's going to ask me, do I want to keep my custom sizing from before? In this case, no, I don't want to because all the numbers are different. So I'm going to say reset the custom sizing values to their default values so that everything gets set back up. Okay, now again, make sure it says ANSI metric under your standard. All right, the custom sizing. What I'm going to do here is we are going to go through and add in the numbers we saw in that note. That is these right here. So I'm going to add in 10, a 20, and a 5. Going back into SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to put in the first box a 10, the second box a 20, the third box will be 5. Now the end condition, this is important. If I hit through all, you've got to think about that. If I put on the side over here to the right and do a through all, it's going to not only punch through this wall, but it's also going to punch through this wall over here. So instead of that through all, I'm going to drop this down to up to next. And what it'll do is it will go to this edge over here and stop. Okay, then last but not least, and this is important for all the parts we've been working on, under the Options tab, make sure nothing is checked on. Now, I have everything defined. So the next step is to position the hole where I need it. So I click on the Positions tab and it says select the face for the hole. I'm going to select this right side face, do a space bar and a normal to, and I'm going to kind of eyeball it to this upper middle and left click. Now you'll notice it's still active. To deactivate, I must hit escape. Now in order to get this defined, because right now I see that as blue, I also see undefined in the corner. I need to position this hole using my dimension tool. So going back to the part, I'm looking, it looks like this is going to be dimension 50 in and 50 down. Going back to SOLIDWORKS, turning on my smart dimension from this top here will be 50. And from here to the side is going to be 50. And just like that, I notice this turns black and it says fully defined on the side. Once I see that, all I have to do is hit my check mark, spacebar, isometric, and there is your counterbore hole. Now let's go back and look at this part. One of the things I've just noticed is I forgot to round off my corners. You'll notice that it says that the corners should be rounded off at an R20, and the TYP means all the corners are the same. So I'm going to use my feature fillet tool. Under my feature toolbar, I'm going to go up to my fillet tool and put in for the radius here a radius of 20 millimeters. And now what I'm going to do is with a full preview showing, I'm going to click on each of these lines here to create the 20 millimeter curve. As soon as you see all 4 of those showing, round it over, hit your check mark to finish that step. So now, looking back at my part, I've got all of my stuff done here. I've got all these rounded over. I've got my counterbore and I've got my countersinks. I've got my chamfers. The only thing missing are the screw holes going through the the two sides. So looking at this corner here, I'm going to focus on this note right here. What it tells me, I have two holes that have a diameter 7 going all the way through, and that the size of the hole is an M8-6H through all. So I'm going to use my hole wizard. In this case, what I'm looking at is I see these dashed lines going around the outside edge of the circle. That indicates a screw thread. However, we don't call it a screw thread when we're working with SOLIDWORKS. We call it a tap, or a tapped hole. Okay, tap thread hole. So I'm going to go here to my SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to go to my features toolbar, and we're going to go back to hole wizard. Now again, I've used Counterbore and I've used countersink. This time though, I want to get a screw thread in there, or what we call a tapped hole. Well, if you look at the first row and the second, or first box in the second row, there is your straight tapped holes. If you left click on there, again, it's going to ask you, do you want to reset your values? Well, since my values for this hole are different than my previous hole, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, reset the custom sizing. Now again, making sure I'm under ANSI metric. I am, that's good. This will be just a straight tapped hole, so I'm just going to go down here to tapped hole. I'm going to change this to an M8, and now this is one where it's a little bit off there. I'm just going to do an M8 by 1.0. Custom sizing will be 7.00, in condition being through all. Okay. Now, again, under options, make sure all boxes are unchecked. In addition, this is very important, in order to see the dashed circles, so going back here, in order to see these dashed lines going around a circle, you must have this box checked under options. Cosmetic thread is showing. Now with that done, everything's set up, I can go to my positions tab, click on this face, spacebar, normal to, and I'm going to place a hole over here and a hole over here. I'll hit escape to turn my tool off. Now again, neither one of these defined and they're not in the correct place. We must dimension them to their proper spot. So going back to my drawing here, I'm going to look and it looks like it's going to be 20 down, 60 in between, and 20 from this right edge here. In addition, they're going to be horizontal to each other. So turning on my smart dimension, from here to this part here is 20. From this left one to this right one will be 60. From this right one to this edge here will be 20. And then the last thing is that they are both horizontal to each other. So with my control key, I will hit both centers and make them horizontal. I now see fully defined in my lower corner. So at this point, I can hit my check mark. I see the dashed lines indicating threads. Go to my isometric view, and my part is done. So at this point, I'm just going to do a file save as. And go ahead, in this case, to your H drive, locate that to your H drive, under your CAD folder, 3D parts folder, and call this, whatever we call this, clamp down, I believe is what I called this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I'm just going to call this a clamp down. Up, caps lock, and underscore your last name. Okay, and save. All right. At this point, I can go into my evaluate. I can look at my mass properties. I see my mass properties are 4,061.58 grams. So now go ahead and print that. Make sure you get it printed to the correct printer. In this case, it should be our L108TE lab, and say OK. Close out your mass properties. So our last step then is to put this into a drawing. Okay, so again, I'm going to do a file new, and we're going to put this into a GHSA metric. I'm going to hit OK. And as the drawing opens up, I'm going to hit my F key to center it. And I'm going to come over here where I see the clamp down and go to the blue arrow and start setting up my drawing. Now, this is the same setup we've been doing since week number 4 in school. So we've been doing this almost for 14 weeks now. So I'm going to start by going to the front view first. Turn on my preview and make sure my hidden lines are visible. The scale for this one, I believe, is supposed to be, let me go back to the part drawing. It's going to be 1 to 2. Okay, so 1 to 2 will be my part. So going back to SOLIDWORKS, setting that up. This one here, I should see 1 to 2, and I do. And now at this point, all I'm going to do is come in here, starting in the left-hand corner, left click, pull to my right, left click, pull straight up and left click, pull a diagonal, left click. Okay, again, I'm going to highlight this box and get rid of it because I don't want it there. I'm going to take the metric box or metric and move it to this lower right corner, like so. I'm going to go ahead and add in the border over here to the left and make a box around it. Now, I'm going to take this upper one here, and the first thing I want to do is add some color. And if you want to take it without the black lines, you're more than welcome to go this way. In addition, I want to really focus in and make sure I don't have any of these lines on this part. So I'm going to delete those. I'm also going to go ahead and add in my note here. Now I'm going to use the trick on this one to save myself some time. So I'm going to go to my note tool and drop my note tool underneath. Okay, I'm going to go over here to my PDF file, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight this title right here, Control Copy, come back into SOLIDWORKS, and now with my cursor inside this box, do a Control V. In this case, though, I need to put in a number here. So I'm going to put in 4061.80 grams. Do not leave it as 3 X's as some of you have been doing. It's an automatic deduction in points for not telling me your mass. As soon as you're done, click outside, hit escape, and make any adjustments you need to put this in relation to this part right here. Okay, that looks good. Everything looks done to this point. Now, since we're getting ready for a quiz, the next step I want to show you is how can I get my dimensions on this part as fast as possible. I am now going to go up to the word Model Items. I left click on that, and I just got to quickly set some things up. So I'm going to go here and say the entire model and import items into all views. I'm also going to make sure that not only do I have my dimensions for drawing, I'm going to do the not marked. I'm going to basically click on every single one of these boxes. Nope, I don't want the profiles. Okay, like so. So I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 drawings, and I want the eliminate duplicates on. At this point, all I'm going to do is now left click on the green arrow, and what you're going to see is all the whole callouts and all the dimensions will suddenly pop on the screen. So there are all my numbers. Now, what's important with this is if you were to do all the two-dimensional sketching we did before extrusions and put your dimensions in the same spots as you saw in the drawing, they should have imported into the same spots. Now, looking at this, I got a couple. I'm going to just make some adjustments, kind of come in here and tighten this up. This 100 was actually on the upper part here, so I'm going to turn my Smart Dimension on and add that onto here. Okay. The 120 are good. This 100 I'll bring it a little bit tighter. That looks good. But this 10 and this 45 must be deleted. We'll add a note on there in just a second. Okay, the 60, the 20, and everything else, this all looks good. The only thing I notice here is that in our drawing that I gave you, this is 17.3. Well, to change this, I need to go over to this callout value. And if you look, there's 3 boxes here. Well, if you drop this arrow down, you'll see each of the pieces of that note in this box. Here's my 9. There's the word through all. There's my 17, and there's my 90. Well, I want to go to this 17 and left click. And then where it says none document, drop that to a 0.1. And now you'll notice the 17 went to 17.3. Hit the green check mark. Now looking at my drawing, this view is completely done. This view is completely done except for this note. So what I'm going to do is go back to SOLIDWORKS here, go back into my drawing, And I'm going to turn on my node tool, click on this line, pull down below, and left click again. Now coming over here to leader, I'm going to go to this middle box, third row, so I can get a bent leader. And then begin typing in here. Do not change your font size, but just make sure you have cap locks on. It's going to be 10 space X space 45. Now, to add your degree symbol, we do not type in the word degrees. We don't type in DEG for short. We don't put an asterisk symbol. We actually put a degree symbol. And to do that, if you look up here to your left next to the anchor under text format, there is an add symbol button. If you left click on it, your degree button is right the second one in. It's the only way I will accept this. Otherwise, it'll be marked wrong on the quiz. I'm going to do a space bar and chamfer. Click outside and adjust as you need to. So this view is now complete. So now going over to the right side view, I'm going to make a few small adjustments. You'll notice this one is kind of off over here. I'm just going to kind of pull it down and to the left. If you look here, it changed a little bit. R says through right there, and we're going to leave it. Okay, the 20 is the same thickness. We'll just leave that alone. So that takes care of itself. Okay, this one we'll keep right there. The radius 20, though, I'm going to delete. Keep the 20 here and the 60 here. That looks good. This 20 looks good. This 50 looks good. I'm going to move this up a little bit. This 50, slide up a little bit. And then last but not least, I'm just going to go ahead and add one more thing on here, which is my R20. And I'm going to add in the TYP next to it. Now, in this case here, I'm going to slide this over a little bit. I've got some space to work with. So I can bring my TYP up. And actually, in this case, I'll leave it like that. That looks good. All right, so at this point, I have all of my information, all of my views are done. I'm just going to do a quick double check. I see a 20 TYP, there's notes there, 50, we look good. My final drawing is almost done. The only other thing I have to do is change up my title block and then print and turn this in. So the title for today will be quiz practice clamping bracket. So double click, quiz practice, space S space, clamping bracket. Now, if I have to adjust my font size, which it looks like I do, I'm going to go from 18 down to a 16. And now it fits in the title block. Scale 1 to 2. Period for A. Date. And then you're going to put your first initial and your last name. At this point, you are now done with this drawing. So make sure you do a control save. Save it to the same spot you have your part. Just go ahead and keep the same name and hit save. Your last step then is to do a file print. I'm just going to hit the print button at the top of my screen. Make sure I'm printing to the correct printer and hit OK. Go ahead and collect your mass property sheet, staple it to the upper left-hand corner, that's up here, upper left-hand corner to the back of the paper, and then place this in the collection box when you are done. At this point, this is a done problem. Go ahead and begin working on the next problem in tomorrow's class. Good luck. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.